Hi, my name is Raghu. I'm the ISACA Regional Ambassador in India and also a past member of the ISACA Global Board of Directors. ISACA is a 50-year-old not-for-profit global organization that works to advance the best talent, expertise, and learning, especially when it comes to technology, preparing professionals like you and me with the necessary knowledge and skills that may be useful to enable us to thrive in a world where digital trust is key. This is becoming increasingly important, especially in a world where ChatGPT and artificial intelligence are going to take over, or possibly could take over. I just thought that we should have a quick discussion on what ChatGPT could mean for the future of artificial intelligence. Now, to understand ChatGPT, I think we need to look under the hood a bit. Generally, AI models constitute or compose of three things. One is the data on which the AI model is trained. Second is the AI model itself. And third is the output from the AI model. Now, understanding what these components are and how they interact with each other could be very important to understand some of these AI models. While I understand that most of us, many of us listening to this might be well aware of these things, I just want to quickly touch on these things so that we are aware that we're all talking the same terms. Right now, data is very important because the data is what the AI model or the algorithm is trained on. And in the past, and even now, there could be a lot of challenges with the data itself. So it's very important that we understand these three components and how they talk to each other to effectively and safely use AI. Now, data is key because this is the component on which the entire AI model is trained. So if there are challenges in data, if there are biases in the data, if the data is lacking certain representativeness, you could have a lot of challenges with how the data is going to interact with the model, what the model is going to learn from the data that is being presented to it, and what it does eventually with the data that is coming out as an output. So it's very important that we understand the data that goes into these models and what they can mean from the perspective of the enterprise or the user. Second, of course, is the algorithm or the model itself. Now, there are many ways of teaching these algorithms: supervised learning, unsupervised learning. There could be feedback loops that could be built in. There could be back propagation that could be done. There could be a lot of things that are being done. And from the perspective of the end user, many of these things may be opaque. It is also possible that as an enterprise user, you sometimes don't know what the AI algorithm or the model is doing and how it interacts with the data in a specific way. This could obviously impact the learnings from the model, right? This could impact how it takes in your data, interprets it with the same lens that was applied to the training data, which could have its issues, like I spoke about earlier, and what this means in terms of the output that we are coming up with. Now, due to various reasons, many times this visibility or the lack of visibility could lead to challenges in making sure that the output that you get is actually explainable. So let me give you an example. There have been instances in the past where the data was actually used, the model, was actually using a proxy to arrive at an outcome. So when they fed the model with images of certain kinds of dogs, they often took the background, which was snow, to be an indicator that there was a dog there, which means that the model saw a picture of a cat with snow in the background. It automatically tagged that as a cat. Right. There are similar other issues because of which the model could actually misunderstand what is going on and give you wrong output. Data poisoning could be one of those reasons. Right. A very popular chatbot some time ago had to be taken down quickly because users trained it to give the wrong kinds of answers, racist answers, or maybe answers that are unbalanced in some way, which could actually make the usefulness of the model that much lower and could also probably offend users. Right. And finally, a number of issues exist with the output as well. Explainability being a key challenge. Right now, you don't know why the model took the data that was given to it and came up with a specific response. Now, in a general scenario where this is to tag an image, right? Say that it has to identify if an image contains a dog or a cat or not. This may not be something that is such a big issue. Right. But there have been scenarios where the models were actually using proxies, as I told you again, where for cancer screening purposes, if there was a ruler next to the image, the model assumed that that particular piece of skin or that image probably contained cancerous cells. Right. So when you have scenarios like this can again become a serious issue when it comes to actual usability in real life or within the enterprise. Then, of course, there are other scenarios where this lack of explainability could become an issue. So let us assume that an AI model that has been trained on data is going to be used for, let's say, some kind of a criminal decision making in the case of the occurrence of a criminal issue. right? Then there could be serious challenges if one is not able to be clear on why the model gave a certain prediction. Then, of course, there are two broad ways the data from the models is being used. One is with the human in the loop or human on the loop. Now, when in the case of human in the loop, the final deciding authority could probably be a human, or the human is getting augmented in the decision making by what the model is providing as an output. Now, this can be not a serious issue when it comes to something like deciding on, let's say, the quality of an image or something like that. But this can also be very serious when it comes to making the medical decisions or decisioning in the case of criminal sentencing. So I think it's very important that as professionals and as industry users of some of these models, we understand what goes in and what kind of controls are available to make sure that all these bits and pieces that are under the hood interact well. Now let's come and talk about a little bit about ChatGPT. ChatGPT, which is short for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer, is an artificial intelligence chatbot. I know that GPT is quite a mouthful, right? This ChatGPT was built by OpenAI's GPT, or built on OpenAI GPT 3.5 and GPT 3 and 4 families of large language models, which is one of the reasons why it is so popular with us humans, right? Because when you interact, as many users have noted, when you interact with these models, you really don't get the feeling that you're interacting with a machine. The model is able to understand the context of your question, overcome any spelling mistakes or other errors that you may be creating. And it is always interesting for us humans to be able to communicate in the most common way, which is language, right? So primarily, ChatGPT is a language model which is having access to a large set of data. So the responses that it provides is usually based on a good understanding, or at least a good correlation of what your question or what your prompt might mean to what is actually being provided. Though there have been scenarios of factual gaps coming up, you are at the end of the day interacting with a bot, but a bot that is a high level of machine learning or a high level of capability in terms of being able to respond to human questions and answer and provide the necessary answers. Of course, ChatGPT is that much more because it's able to perform a wide range of actions, including responding to prompts and questions, writing code, maybe even writing poetry. For example, I asked it to write me a haiku and it was able to do that. It was able to take an ACE competitive exams, right? So there are a number of uses to which it could be put in, which can have a very positive impact on what we're doing. Now, generative AI models, of which ChatGPT is one, are usually trained on vast amounts of information from the internet and from other sources, including websites, books, news articles, and things like that, which make them very powerful. Now, GPT-4, which is the newest iteration of ChatGPT, is actually able to take in multimodal input, which means that you don't have to necessarily provide it communication or ask questions in the form of words. You can actually provide it input in the form of, let's say, an image, and it is able to use that for processing and give you the right kind of answer. So this can be very useful when you're trying to do more work. For example, uploading worksheets and graphs and charts to be analyzed and giving you an output, or summarizing data from one format to the other. Right, so you put in information that is in a table format, and probably it is able to generate something that in the form of an image. Right. Now, why has ChatGPT got so much attention, and what does it mean for everybody? Right? When you start looking closely at what OpenAI is doing and what ChatGPT has been able to accomplish till date, it becomes very clear that a lot of further integrations and what are called APIs are in the works, which means that it can actually integrate and sit with a lot of other tools and solutions that already exist. Now, one of the things that we as humans have always enjoyed and valued is tools that can really work for us. And in this case, ChatGPT has been that tool that can take away a lot of the drudgery, right? Make things easier. And today, when every single moment of our time has to be spent productively, is to be used carefully, something like ChatGPT can make a big difference. And a number of users are actually using ChatGPT to for various purposes which have not been thought of until now. For example, somebody out there is actually using it for making investment decisions, right? So all these things can make a big difference in terms of what human beings need to do, the level of understanding that they need to bring to solve a problem, and sometimes can be very transformative in terms of what can be, let's say, democratized in terms of what can be done or not. So it's very important to understand that this could be really the harbinger of something great out there as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. especially with the integration of ChatGPT into many mainstream tools, such as, let's say, social media or other unidimensional bots. It may become very interesting for people to be able to very simply ask specific questions without really worrying about the nuances involved. So you can simply ask for the flight status, for example, of a flight that is moving from, let's say, Chennai to Bangalore, and that could give you, the chat model could actually give you the output very easily, right? Which means there's a lot of saving in time, probably also remove human intervention in some cases, leading to the question that, do these models, or can these models lead to a scenario where human beings are going to get removed, and a number of jobs are going to be lost. Right. Now, with AI tools being able to accept multimodal inputs, it may be possible to make a higher level of expertise in certain tasks easily available. Right. So the expertise of a doctor, if it can be translated into data that can be fed into a ChatGPT kind of model, could easily be made available to anybody anywhere. Right, which means that in the medical field, you don't have to worry that you don't have access to a doctor who knows every kind of scenario. As long as you have access to a tool that can take in the data, provide you with a fairly certain degree of probability that what you're looking at is a specific kind of injury or can be treated in a specific way, things like that. Now, the shift is going to be in how ChatGPT and other similar models are going to get used, and what this will mean for us as professionals and as industry as a whole. I think it's very important that as professionals and as people who are both consumers and as somebody on the other side in terms of industry, we take a very risk-aware point of view, apply the general governance that we apply to normal software tools and technologies to ChatGPT as well. This is very important because without the guardrails around from the perspective of a legal or regulatory framework as of today, it is very easily possible that some of these tools can become runaway trains with no control. And there could be other challenges in terms of privacy or in terms of bias creeping in or in terms of other things which may affect the usability and effectiveness of these tools. So I think we need to ask ourselves what we can do to keep up with these changes, especially as industry is evolving, as AI is creeping into our lives, like one of those lily pod blooms where one day the half the lake is covered and the next the whole lake is covered. I think we need to be using these AI systems with an eye on the risk barometer, because we need to be aware that risks and limitations exist. It is at the end of the day a tool until proven to be something more than that. So we need to build in or put in place the right kind of checks and balances to make sure that we are aware of the risks, to make sure that there is adequate governance, very similar to what we would apply to some other software tool or technology that we intend to use in the enterprise. Because the implications of errors need to be very thoroughly understood. And sometimes the degree and speed at which the tasks are being processed by these tools could mean that errors are getting propagated very fast. That could lead to a lot of challenges. As always, we need to think of these tools from a non-techno-deterministic perspective, in the sense that we are obviously nowhere near AGI, right, which is artificial general intelligence, but we can definitely get there over a period of time as these tools become more intelligent, as the learning gets improved in terms of models, and we have more powerful tools and technologies coming out from an artificial intelligence perspective. We need to make sure that risk and security perspectives are upfront and top of mind, and applied to AI-based systems like they have been applied to other systems as well. Because without that point of view, there could be this feeling that AI systems operate in some type of God mode, which is not something that we really believe to be the case, especially when it comes to enterprises. Obviously, we need to work in a world where we learn to live with AI collaboratively, not us versus them. So I think that's the perspective we need to take when it comes to AI and how it can be better integrated into the future that we plan to live with the artificial intelligence tools that are out there. Thank you.